Who's in there?
I'm sorry. What's going on? I'm just dreaming. Dante, wait up! Dante! You gotta stay with me, boy. We don't know where we are. This isn't a dream then. You're all really out there.
When Coco arrived in theaters in 2017, it did more than introduce audiences to a new animated adventure. It opened a vibrant doorway into memory, music, and the emotional architecture of family. Set against the richly textured traditions of Mexico's Dia de los Muertos, the film tells a story that feels intimate and epic at the same time. It is intimate because it centers on a single boy with a forbidden dream, and epic because that dream carries him beyond the boundaries of the living world into a dazzling realm where the past is not gone, but vividly alive. At the heart of the story is Miguel Rivera, a young boy growing up in a family of shoemakers. For generations, the Riveras have banned music from their lives, treating it almost like a curse. The origin of this band stretches back to a painful family legend. Miguel's great-great-grandfather abandoned his wife and daughter to pursue a career in music, leaving behind heartbreak that hardened into tradition. Since then, music has been exiled from the household. Guitars are forbidden, songs are silenced. Even the slightest hint of melody is met with stern disapproval. Yet in this tension between tradition and aspiration lies the film's emotional engine. Miguel, voiced with youthful sincerity by newcomer Anthony Gonzalez, does not see music as betrayal, he sees it as destiny. Secretly, he studies old films and listens to recordings of his idol, Ernesto de la Cruz, the most celebrated musician in Mexican history. Ernesto, voiced by Benjamin Bratt, represents everything Miguel longs to become, charismatic, adored, and immortalized through song. Miguel practices in secret, hiding a handmade guitar in a dusty attic space decorated with clippings and photographs of his hero. Every strum is an act of rebellion, but also an act of hope. The world of the living is rendered with warmth and specificity. The Rivera home bursts with color, laughter, and bustling domestic life. The shoemaking business is not merely a job, it is a family identity, passed down with pride and reinforced by the formidable matriarch, Abuelita. She polices the anti-music rule with unflinching authority, wielding her sandal with comic severity. Yet, beneath the humor lies genuine fear that music will once again tear the family apart. Miguel's desire to perform in a local talent show on Dia de los Muertos becomes the spark that ignites the story's central conflict. For him, it is a chance to prove his talent. For his family, it is a dangerous defiance of everything they stand for. The night of Dia de los Muertos arrives with glowing candles, marigold petals, and lovingly prepared ofrendas honoring departed relatives. It is a celebration of remembrance, a belief that those who have passed return, briefly, to be with their families as long as their photos are placed on the altar. The film treats this tradition not as background decoration, but narrative foundation. Memory is power. To be remembered is to continue existing. To be forgotten is to fade away. Desperate and frustrated after his guitar is destroyed, Miguel makes a fateful decision. Convinced that Ernesto de la Cruz must be his long-lost ancestor, he sneaks into Ernesto's mausoleum to borrow the legendary musician's guitar. The moment he strums its strings, reality shifts. Miguel becomes invisible to the living and finds himself standing among skeletal spirits who were once his relatives. The land of the dead blooms before him in breathtaking fashion, a vertical city of glowing bridges, cascading lights, and towering structures that seem carved from memory itself. In this new realm, Miguel encounters generations of his ancestors, all eager to send him back to the living world with their blessing, on one condition: he must abandon music forever. The ultimatum mirrors the very conflict he tried to escape. Instead of accepting, Miguel sets out to find Ernesto de la Cruz himself, believing that a blessing from his idol will free him to pursue his passion without restriction. Along this journey, Miguel meets Hector, a lanky, quick-witted skeleton voiced by Gael García Bernal. Hector is a charming trickster, full of schemes and half-truths, desperate to visit the living world before he is forgotten entirely. Unlike the polished and grand Ernesto, Hector is scrappy and vulnerable. His bones rattle, his confidence wavers, and his motivations are tangled in regret. Yet he offers Miguel something Ernesto cannot: companionship and an understanding of what it truly means to be remembered. The partnership between Miguel and Hector becomes the emotional backbone of the film. Their dynamic blends humor with poignancy. They bicker, they negotiate, they perform together in dazzling musical numbers, and slowly, layers of truth begin to peel away. The land of the dead, for all its color and spectacle, is governed by rules rooted in memory. If no one in the living world remembers you, you suffer a final death, dissolving into nothingness. Hector's desperation is no longer comic relief, it is existential. As Miguel climbs closer to meeting Ernesto, the image of his idol begins to shift. Ernesto de la Cruz is revealed not just as a beloved performer, but as a carefully constructed persona. The film interrogates the nature of fame and legacy. What is the value of applause if it is built on deceit? What does it mean to be immortalized through art if the story behind that art is false? In a pivotal revelation, Miguel learns that Hector, not Ernesto, is his true ancestor, and that the songs attributed to Ernesto were stolen. The great legend was built on betrayal. This twist reframes the entire narrative. The family's ban on music was born not from hatred of art, but from pain inflicted by dishonesty. Hector did not abandon his family for ambition, he longed to return to them. His death and erasure were orchestrated by the very man who profited from his talent. The emotional weight of this truth lands heavily. Miguel's quest to follow his dream becomes inseparable from his responsibility to restore his family's history. Visually, the film orchestrates its themes through contrast. The living world is warm, textured, grounded. The land of the dead is luminous and surreal, yet built from familiar cultural symbols: marigold bridges, papel picado patterns, skeletal figures dressed in elegant attire. The animation captures both whimsy and solemnity. Skeletons are not grotesque, they are expressive and dignified, reminders that death, in this cultural context, is not an ending, but a continuation. Music threads through every layer of the story. Songs are not mere interludes, they are narrative revelations. Performances shift from celebratory to heartbreaking as their meaning changes. A melody introduced as a triumphant anthem becomes, by the end of the film, a tender lullaby passed from parent to child. The transformation of that song mirrors Miguel's own transformation, from a boy chasing stardom to a child fighting to preserve memory. The climax unfolds with urgency. Miguel must return to the living world before sunrise, or he will remain trapped among the dead. At the same time, Hector faces final death as his last living relative, the elderly Mama Coco, begins to forget him. The film's emotional crescendo does not hinge on spectacle alone, but on a quiet, intimate act, a song sung to a fading memory. In that moment, the grand city of the dead fades away, and the story narrows to a bedside, a grandmother, and a melody filled with love. It is here that the film articulates its central thesis: remembrance is an act of devotion. Directed by Lee Unkrich, known for his work on Toy Story 3, and co-directed by Adrian Molina, with production by Darla Anderson, the film carries the narrative sophistication often associated with Pixar storytelling. It balances humor and heartbreak with precision, trusting its audience, children and adults alike, to engage with themes of mortality, regret, and reconciliation. The creative leadership ensures that the cultural setting is not superficial, but deeply woven into the film's aesthetic and emotional logic. When it opened in U.S. theaters on November 22, 2017, the film quickly resonated with audiences who recognized its universal message beneath its specific cultural framework. The struggle between personal ambition and familial expectation is timeless. So too is the fear of being forgotten. By situating these anxieties within the vivid celebration of Dia de los Muertos, the film reframes death as something less frightening and more relational. It suggests that our stories continue through those who carry them forward. Miguel's journey ultimately resolves not in rejection of family tradition, nor in surrendering his dream, but in reconciliation. The ban on music dissolves when truth replaces myth. The family rediscovers its connection to song, not as a source of abandonment, but as a bond across generations. The final scenes echo with communal music, bridging living and dead in harmonious continuity. The shoemaker's grandson does not have to choose between heritage and aspiration. He learns that identity is expansive enough to hold both. What makes the film endure is its refusal to simplify its themes. Ernesto is not merely a villain, he embodies the seductive power of image over integrity. Hector is not flawless, he is flawed, impulsive, human, even in skeletal form. Miguel is not rebellious for rebellion's sake, he is searching for belonging. Each character reflects a facet of the central inquiry. How do we honor the past while pursuing the future? The narrative also underscores the ethics of storytelling itself. Whose version of history survives? Who gets credit? In restoring Hector's songs to his name, Miguel does more than correct a family record. He reclaims authorship and dignity. The land of the dead, with its layered society of remembered and nearly forgotten souls, becomes an allegory for cultural memory. Recognition sustains existence, neglect erodes it. From its smallest comedic beats to its most sweeping musical numbers, the film maintains a careful tonal calibration. Laughter and tears coexist. A skeletal dog provides levity even as characters confront annihilation. Fireworks burst across the night sky even as old wounds are reopened. This interplay prevents the film from tipping into sentimentality or darkness. Instead, it inhabits a space of honest emotion. By the end, Miguel stands transformed, not because he achieved fame, but because he understood love. His music is no longer a solitary dream whispered in secret. It is a shared language, connecting him to ancestors and descendants alike. The final image lingers on a family united by song, photographs proudly displayed, memories safeguarded. In reflecting on the film's impact, it becomes clear that its brilliance lies not only in its animation or its soundtrack, but in its philosophy. It argues that legacy is not measured by applause, but by connection. It invites viewers to consider the stories behind their own family photographs, the songs sung by grandparents, the traditions that shape identity. It treats culture with reverence and joy, acknowledging both its beauty and its fragility. Ultimately, the story of Miguel Rivera is a meditation on what we inherit and what we choose. The land of the dead may shimmer with impossible architecture, but its foundation is simple. To be remembered is to live on. Through music, through storytelling, through love, the boundaries between past and present dissolve. And in that dissolution, a young boy finds not only his voice, but his place within a lineage that stretches far beyond a single lifetime.